Alright everyone, I just updated to the new Murders at Karlov Manor set. So they sent me Kaya, Spirit's Justice. This is what she comes with. Case of the Uneaten Feast. There you go, there's that one. But they also sent me packs. So let me just go over here and show you what they gave me. One normal pack, one white pack, and one black pack. So let's see what we get from them. All right, a new land right off the bat. That's good. Always good to see a new rare. True Phyrexian. Okay, that one's an interesting card. It wasn't a chase for me, but I thought it was going to be kind of interesting. Destroy the opposing creature with the greatest power. Collect evidence 2. I don't like collect evidence 2 on a simple removal spell, but it is what it is. That's an interesting card I don't think I'll play. But we got a rare from our very first pack, which is always good. It's always nice to get not only a rare out of the way, but a land. And let's see what we get out of the white pack. Oh, I should show you the drop rates for this one. Okay, investigate, detective. Oh, Case of the Pilfered Proof. This was one that I wanted to play around with. Okay, we're already getting dupes. 2 packs, and I'm already getting a dupe. Alright, well, okay, so black booster pack. Very low chance of getting a masterpiece, pretty low chance of getting a mythic, but we get a 1 in 4 chance of getting a rare. So let's see if we do that. Alright, Lazav, Weaver of Faces. This one seemed interesting to me. I'll have to play around with it to see if it's any good. But that's not bad. Lead Pipe, pretty crappy equipment. Cerebral Confiscation, discarding 2 cards from the first 2 cards from their hand, then your opponent loses 3 life and you draw a card. I like it except for it's 14 mana, so I'll probably never use this with any regularity. First creature gains death, touch, and lifelink, then investigate. Could be maybe useful. And then another dupe. So this was one that I got from my normal pack. So it looks like if you get this pack, you're likely to get a dupe common if you've already opened packs before. So that's something that's worth noting. Okay, so let's look at her kit now and tell you what I like and don't like about it. So 140 life, that's great. The most life of any Planeswalker in the game. Pretty interesting that they decided to give her the most HP. Most of the time I think you'll need it, and we'll get into why. They may have just gotten sick of us content creators complaining about how low life they were giving all these new Planeswalkers they were giving us, so that could be the explanation there. Her mana bonuses, she gets +4 on white and black, and +2 on green, which is interesting because usually Kaya's before they got positive mana gains on blue. So interesting change there. Maybe they just wanted to switch it up a bit. Don't love the -1 on blue and red though. I wish if they were going to give us those -1s, I would have taken less of a mana bonus on green and gladly have taken more of a mana gain on white and black, because you're probably going to want to be playing high cost cards, and so any positive mana bonus that you can make better, that's really going to help to play with this Planeswalker a bit more smoothly. So let's talk about her abilities. For 13 loyalty, Surveil 2. Exile the card with the greatest mana cost from your graveyard, then gain X mana. X is half that card's mana value rounded down. Gain Y loyalty. Y is the number of cards in your exile. Okay, so this is a pretty good ability, except for its loyalty cost. So most of your cards that you can put in your deck, the highest end is going to be in the 20-21 range. So you can get at most 10 mana or so from this ability. So that's not bad. And then gaining Y loyalty, Y is the number of cards in your exile. There's ways to pump that up. So it takes some time to get there, but this loyalty ability can help to pay for itself. So the problem is it just takes that long to get to it in the first place. And the thing about this game is you're most vulnerable in the beginning of the match before you have your board state set up. So having a cheap first loyalty ability is pretty important in a lot of Planeswalkers. So that's one thing I really got to knock it for. It's a good ability when it gets rolling, but it's tough to get it rolling. And then couple that with slightly less than desirable mana gains means you're going to be struggling in the beginning. So that's where that 140 HP comes in useful, because you might end up taking about 50 points of damage before you're really set up to basically win. So that is something to think about. Okay, the second ability, 16 loyalty. You gain 24 life. Each opposing creature gains suspect. Create 5 white and black spirit tokens, then spirit creatures you control gain prevent damage until the beginning of your next turn. This is, to me, by far the least useful ability in her kit. 16 loyalty can be spent in such a better way than, gaining 24 life. That's not bad, but if you really need this to survive, that's probably not going to be the thing to keep you alive if you're facing a really tough opponent. Each opposing creature gains suspect, does nothing for you unless you have a way to take advantage of that. You have to be playing something like Argus Cost, which exiles creatures who have suspect, but that's a very niche reason to use this ability. Create 5 white and black spirit tokens. So you're creating 5 tokens, which sometimes can be very useful, but oftentimes not that powerful on its own. Spirit creatures you control gain prevent damage until the beginning of your next turn. So yeah, it feels like this ability was really made for one card in particular, that Argus Cost. I feel like there could have been something more universally created to help with this ability. If we get a spirit leader, at least one that is less cumbersome to make than the ancient one, the masterpiece in LCI that has spirit leader, but only after you descend 4 times. So not a great thing to rely on there. Seems a little too narrow of an ability, especially for that much loyalty. Okay, so Ghostly Punishment, 22 loyalty. Reinforce your spirit creatures X times. X is 3 plus the number of opposing creatures with suspect. Again, very niche there. Exile each opposing creature. That's great. Then create Y, white and black spirit tokens. Y is the greatest power among the creatures exiled this way. If you erased every other sentence in this ability besides exile each opposing creature, still a good ability. Everything else is kind of a bonus. You can create a lot of white and black spirit tokens depending on what creatures you exile from your opponent. So a Galta is going to give you a lot of spirit tokens from doing it. So you can take advantage of this part of her. For example, anything that triggers when creatures enter the board, Guillaume, life insurance, cards like that. So there is some extra utility there, but I think for the most part, you're going to be using this to exile each opposing creature. Reinforcing your spirit creatures X times. That can also be okay, but there aren't like crazy big spirits that if you reinforce them, it's going to make a huge difference. Like Faithbound Judge is a 4/4, so if you reinforce it 3 times, it's going to be a 12/12, which is, nothing to sneeze at really, but it's probably not going to be the big difference in a battle, although it could be. Argus costs another really strong spirit creature. Moonshaker Cavalry, another strong one. So, pretty good ability. Between her first and her third, that's pretty solid, but you do need cards that really generate a lot of loyalty for you, which is what I'll get into next. Okay, so here's the deal, you guys. I'm going to keep it real with you. If you want to use this Kaya and get the most out of her, you really need to have these cards in your deck. And the reason why is because they are the best loyalty generators in the game. And in order to really get a lot out of her, you need loyalty generation in a big way. Because her abilities are, especially her first and her third, are very good. They cost a lot. And you probably want to use them multiple times in a match. So, in order to do that, you need to figure out a way to get a lot of loyalty. So, having all 4 of these cards in your deck is probably overkill, but you want to have at least Golden Wish, Trouble in Pairs, and you probably already have Faithbound Judge, but if not, you can go look for that one. But Golden Wish and Trouble in Pairs will be in standard for, 3 years now that they're doing the 3-year standard rotation. So they are masterpieces. So if you don't already know how to chase masterpieces, let me know and I'll tell you. But Gauzemaster also has a lot of tips on how to chase masterpieces, but there is definitely a path that you can use to clear out your high rarity collections, especially if the set is the current newest set. So I'll just go through with Trouble in Pairs. So I'm really liking this card. You get a lot out of it. So while on the board, your opponent can't gain extra swaps. They do gain a nifty little new evergreen icon under their Planeswalker profile picture while you're fighting them. It's an 18 mana support with 3 shields. But at the bottom here, when your opponent activates a loyalty ability or a vanguard ability, you gain 15 loyalty. If they're playing with a bunch of vanguards and they happen to trigger them, they're going to fill up your loyalty bar right away. So if you fight in a Johnny and they have like a Teferi Vanguard out, if they're probably going to be spamming their first ability, and then they'll trigger that Vanguard ability. So you're going to have a full loyalty bar right there. Faithbound Judge, if you don't already know, the Sinner's Judgment token. At the beginning of your turn, increase this card's level by 1, then gain X loyalty. X is 8 times this card's level. That's ridiculous because it's pretty easy to let this card give you full loyalty. Golden Wish is an expensive spell, but if you cast it, most of the time you're going to be hitting enough loyalty gems to give yourself the entire loyalty bar right then and there. And it's a fantastic card because it also gives you 2 free artifacts or vanguards and puts them into play for you. And this is a brand new card. It's pretty good. It's a global board wipe, so you gotta keep that in mind. But gaining 10 loyalty just for casting it is really not bad. With all these ways to get loyalty, she can be strong, but she's really dependent on having these cards, I feel like. So keep that in mind while you're thinking about picking her up. Okay, so here's the deck that I'm using to take advantage of her abilities. There's a lot of good things going on here. So for her first ability, we got Jaleva Nephalia's Scourge, who if you don't already own. When this creature enters the battlefield, move the top X card from each player's library into your exile. X is the amount of mana used to cast this card. Those cards gain the Darkness emblem. So at most, you'll be getting 40 cards into your exile. So that's going to be giving you tons of mana from her first ability if you can get her out on the board. And then, of course, Joleva's best ability is probably to fetch cards and fetch spells and give them full mana. So that's where Breach of the Multiverse comes in, and it's a 21 mana spell. So not only can you get mana from, sorry, I meant loyalty when we talk about Joleva with her first ability, and that putting all that in, all those cards in your exile. So you're going to be filling up your loyalty bar pretty much just off of Joleva. So that's awesome. So here we go with the mana cost of Breach of the Multiverse. You could either cast this card or put it in the graveyard with her first ability and get 10 mana from it. But for the most part, I think you're going to want to be casting this card if you can afford to. And we'll have ways of doing that. We got this new card, Push Pull. You got to be careful with this card because it auto casts. So it'll just destroy your creatures if you forget it's in your hand and you cast it. It's definitely happened to me more than once. Very annoying. Webcore, please fix that. And then what I really want to use this card for is Pull, which is along with Breach of the Multiverse, you're going to be putting a bunch of cards in your graveyard, and then this card is going to be pulling them out of the graveyard for you, and they're going to come out with Haste and Berserker. So that can be very powerful. It's like a graveyard deploy the Gatewatch. Mox Pearl and Mox Jet. We have a lot of expensive cards in this deck, so we're going to need ways to get them out quickly and efficiently. So these will help. Trouble in Pairs, as I said, is a really good card for generating loyalty because all they need to do is trigger their loyalty ability and you get a lot of loyalty from it. It's also 18 mana, so if you already have one in play, you can put it in your graveyard and then get 9 mana from it if that's what you use your first ability for. Golden Wish, of course, the golden standard for getting loyalty in the game right now. Faithbound Judge, another way to get loyalty, plus it's a spirit, so you can take advantage of her third ability with it, along with is it Agris? Okay, it's Agris cost. It's also a spirit. It also helps to remove creatures from your side. So pretty awesome card in that way. I actually really like this card, especially when you start pumping it up. It can be pretty powerful. And then Lane Line of the Guild Pack, pretty expensive card, but it's multicolored. So it's got all 5 colors, and that means you can put it on the board with a Mox Jet or the Mox Pearl, or you can sacrifice it to your graveyard and get 9 mana from it. Or if you use the Overflow, which I end up doing a decent amount, destroy all gems of your opponent's Planeswalker's colors. That will also generate some cascades, which should result in mana gains and loyalty gains. So that is the explanation for this deck. I hope you like watching it in action. And yeah. So I thought I'd share with you here a deck that I'm playing around with. Basically, the interaction between Obnixilis, Captive Kingpin, and life insurance. They recently fixed life insurance so that it is, in fact, making your opponent lose life instead of take damage. So that means that Obnixilis will trigger every time now you create a creature, which you will be doing with Judith, Carnage Connoisseur. And the red devils that Judith creates will trigger life insurance. Obnixilis will draw. And if he draws a spell for you, then when you cast that spell, Judith will trigger again. So it's kind of a little 3-part loop you got going here. And so Golden Wish and Tameo Field Researcher are going to be the cards that help get this whole deck going. So you cast one Golden Wish, you get 2 Tameo Field Researchers on the board, and so that means it's going to be filling up your hand with mana at the beginning of every turn. So the rest of these cards are just cards that help facilitate making things go with Obnixilis. Invoke Despair also has that lose 2 life thing going for it. Cerebral Confiscation. The only reason this card is in the deck is because of the opponent losing 3 life and you draw a card. Otherwise, this card is not worth using, but I found one reason to use it. So, Ariet's Whisper gives your devils Wicked Roll. So if you sack them with Illicit Shipment, then you're going to be triggering extra damage to your opponent. Or is it life loss that Wicked Roll does? It still doesn't tell you what Wicked Roll actually does when you use it, but I believe that's how that works. So yeah, all these cards kind of synergize with each other. Maestro's Charm, of course, is a good card to help fetch other pieces in your deck, along with Illicit Shipment. So there's a lot going for it. Judith will also give all your creatures lifelink when you cast the spell. So as long as you can, weather the storm and get this deck going, then you can get a lot out of it, and it's got a decent amount of synergy. So yeah, if you can build this deck, it's pretty fun. Honestly, other planeswalkers might be better at running this deck than Kaya here, but I just really wanted to showcase this deck and some new synergies that I found for some of the cards in this set. So there you have it. Okay, so this should probably be for the kill. There you have it. Okay, so final conclusion for her. Can she be powerful? Yeah. You do need really the right cards, loyalty generators. When I tried using her without cards like that, I was really struggling to keep up with really any of the other meta decks. Green is just so powerful right now, and blue is always going to be powerful too. So, not having red, blue, and green. Red actually got a pretty good boost this set release. So don't sleep on red either. But anyway, I just feel like she's so dependent on these really rare heavy hitter cards that I find it hard to recommend her to anybody who's just really starting out or still is trying to fill out their collection with really strong cards that take advantage of her abilities. So I feel like the decks that I built for her can run just as well or better with like Dakin or somebody like that. Even maybe a couple of the other Kayas might even run these decks a little better too. But is she strong? Yeah. I mean, she does have some things going for her. She's got that 140 life total. Her third ability is really good at keeping yourself safe, and that first ability can continue to build on itself. So there are things that she has going for her, but she's definitely not a planeswalker you want to invest in if you are saving resources for other more important things. She's kind of a pick her up if you just want to collect all the Planeswalkers or just are a big fan of white black, I think my grade for her will be a B minus. I think I would have probably put her as a C if she didn't have a few good things going for her. But yeah, she's just so dependent on what's going to be useful for you in standard. Can't give her the highest recommendation, but I think if you pick her up and build for her abilities and have really good loyalty generators, she can be useful. So I was watching Malthazar's review on her earlier today, and he basically came to the same conclusion. So the consensus seems to be she's very dependent on some high cost, high rarity cards for her to really shine. So all that being said, thank you so much to Webcore for letting me play her and giving my honest opinions about her. They never encourage us to soft sell the cards that they give us, so they're all right with us providing our honest feedback. And yeah, so I think if you are watching these reviews, you trust us to give you, as a fellow player, a useful assessment of her. And so if I just lie to you and tell you that cards that aren't that good, a good review just for Webcore's benefit, that kind of damages the credibility of my words and this channel overall. So I'm never going to do that. I'm always going to give you my honest thoughts on these cards that they give us. So keep that in mind as I share with you the next few cards that they gave to us to test. So I look forward to sharing with you some really fun cards pretty soon and some things that bother me about others. So make sure you're subscribed. Give this video a like if you did enjoy this review. That's something that people don't always remember to do, but I gotta kind of remind you. You know, everybody always says that in YouTube videos, but there's a reason they do so. So, see you in the next video.